meeting started tonight. Our meeting is being recorded, being shown, I believe we're live, although they're taping a soccer game. Do we get?
That one's not live.
That one's not.
It's just being recorded.
Okay. So we're live, and you can view it again on DCTV at any time. We are going to now rise for the pledge of allegiance and remain standing. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I ask that you remain standing and take a moment to thank our veterans and our current service members, both here and abroad. Thank you. Also, as this is our last meeting before Thanksgiving, I did want to read our town's land acknowledgement as it is fitting. So the town of Dartmouth acknowledges the land on which we gather as the traditional and ancestral home of the Wampanoag Nation and many diverse indigenous people connected to the land. We take this opportunity to thank and honor the original caretakers of this land, their past, their present, and future generations. So thank you for that, and here we are. Going in, our first order of business, the Historical Commission's appointments. Do we have anyone here from the Historic Commission? Great. All right. Right. All right. And are you Jen Mercier? Okay. And Dan Cardoza Jr. All right.
Right.
You both may approach the microphone and just. Welcome.
Thank you.
I can tell who is who.
Yes.
Jen, if you'd tell us a little bit about yourself and your interest in being a member of the Historical Commission.
Sure. I've lived in town for 35 years. I am a self-employed antique furniture restorer in town, and I've worked on a lot of old building houses. I worked with a general contractor for 30 years, and I just have a really big interest in preservation of many things, stone walls, buildings, etc. I do a lot of problem solving with my clients when it comes to these situations, and I'm just interested in my input.
Great. You have come to the right committee, that is for sure, with your expertise. So thank you for that. Okay. Dan Cardoza, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I was born here in Dartmouth, moved out to Rehoboth, owned an 18th century house, and I actually belonged to the Historical Commission in Rehoboth until I moved back. You know, age of divorce will do that. And I moved back to Dartmouth and planning to build an antique reproduction right now on my other piece of land. And I own an upholstery business in Beaton Road in Dartmouth. I've been doing it for 40-something years. It was a family business. And I love authenticity. And I love things of beauty, things of detail, and I think I'd be great for this committee because of that.
It certainly does.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just looking to see if we have everything in order. We have everything we need on our end.
Motion to appoint.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McDonald. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Bringing your expertise to the great board.
I have a lot of IKEA furniture in the house.
All right, next on our agenda, we have received official word from Robert Gardner, his resignation from the Zoning Board of Appeals. You'll find that on page 5 in your document. And I commend Robert's work in the past on the board, and certainly do credit him now, realizing that for his personal reasons, he can no longer be a part of that board. That part's very busy right now. So may I ask that we accept his resignation?
Motion to accept the resignation.
Made by Mr. Mickelson.
Unfortunately, Mr. Gardner, I'm sorry.
Yes, and seconded by Mr. O'Neill. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And would you send the official letter out to him? And then this means that we do have,
Is he
Alternate.
he's
He's an
he
alternate.
was moved to be an alternate. So what we need now is someone who's
Someone to step up and
interested.
enter
They would be an alternate, but alternates on this particular board attend all meetings, as many as they can. And if for one reason a member of the three permanent members either has to recuse themselves or is absent, one of the three alternates
Sit in.
step up. And so it's important that they're there so that they can hear all the information. So anyone out there, if this sounds like something you'd be interested in, please let us know. Next, we have the pleasure of welcoming the chief and Officer Canario, our safety officer, we want to talk about the Route 6 traffic enforcement. That's our first item of business. Chief?
Good evening. So regarding the traffic issue, Route 6 and Florence Corner Road, I think it's pretty well known around town, especially later in the day, in the early evening. It gets pretty hectic over there with people blocking the intersection, blocking other cars who have a green light from going, different things like that. So we're well aware of it. I asked Officer Canario to join us tonight. I don't think anyone spent more time out there looking at this problem, trying some different solutions to alleviate things than he has over the last few years. But we do regularly do enforcement out there. We pulled some stats recently. We've consistently had about 300 motor vehicle stops right in that area each year for the last 2 years, so 600 altogether. The issue we have there is really a design issue. We're trying to get too many cars in an area that just can't handle it. Most of the time, it's the traffic from Florence Corner Road turning left onto State Road that causes the backup, and that's simply because the light at the intersection of Tucker Road and Route 6 is red, and at some point, they have no place to go. What further compounds the issue is that visibility is limited. You're making a left turn, and so sometimes you can't really see that it's backing up until you're already pretty far along and you're already in the intersection. At that point, the intersection's jammed up. People coming trying to get from Old Westport Road, trying to get across, now have a green light, but they have no place to go. If it's really jammed up, then the people on Route 6 trying to turn left onto Old Westport Road also can't go until finally the light at Tucker Road turns green and the traffic begins to flow again. We have people driving all over town. We don't have this problem anywhere else in town. So, we don't really want to blame just the drivers. Now, some people are 100% at fault. They can see it. They still decide to get out there. Some people go through yellow lights, red lights, just to block the intersection, which is where we do come in and do some enforcement. We're very fair about the enforcement because we understand there is a problem. And I've spoken with, Cody about trying to get Mass DOT maybe involved, have a meeting with the town to see if, I know they have a long-term solution they've been working on for a while now. But maybe there's some things we can do, some improvements in the short term, to make things better, trying to get through that intersection. So if you have any questions, we're happy to talk about it. But that, I think, would be the best thing, is just have a conversation with Mass DOT about maybe some short-term solutions. I mean, if you go out there right now, people routinely use, I'm not going to call it a breakdown lane, but whatever that lane is over by A&A Jewelers to turn right onto Tucker Road. And that actually helps the situation, quite honestly. To me, it would just be a matter of some paint to paint that as a proper turn lane, and encourage people to use that and also make it safer in the process. But that's just one example of a simple improvement that can be made at a very low cost to try to help the situation out over there.
And because Route 6 is a state road, it's not something that we in Dartmouth can paint over without their blessing.
Correct.
Stan?
So, Chief, thank you for coming. The state has promised to do something for how many years now?
Yeah,
I
quite a
think
few.
we're on deaf ears every time we listen to these guys. I don't have a lot of, I don't, there isn't much stock I put into anything they have to say. However, we all see people going through red lights. Forget about yellow. I mean, stop, drag down, red lights, all over town, wherever we have, light, traffic lights. We don't have a lot, but I see it all the time. And that's big, that's a big problem. A lot of people in that intersection are purposely going through that red light. And that bottlenecks everything. I think you've done a great job of having some presence there. I think we need more presence. If a $100 ticket doesn't bother anybody, maybe we should have a $200 ticket. I don't know about that, but total regard for safety. That's basically what I'm saying. And I don't know what to do. The state has done nothing, little to nothing, to help us. Maybe we can call them again, but they can't even keep the road clean. So I don't have a lot of good feelings about the state and our roads.
So, one thing that Officer Canary has done as well, not just enforcement-wise, but actually manually run the lights over there. And he's had success with doing that. There's still a lot of traffic, but he's able to stop people from blocking the intersection.
Right.
And that's what creates the big issue. So that kind of tells us that with maybe a more intelligent lighting system or better communication between the traffic lights, it is possible to make that a lot better right now with the current design.
They truly have the technology to do that. There's no question about it, where one light talks to the other.
Right.
But that was built into this new program that they thought they'd do for us.
And DOT had mentioned that as part of the upgrade, that they would
Correct.
realign that. And so
Right.
perhaps, I do know that during the holiday season is typically when the officers are there and manually changing those lights. But we're seeing this, I mean, we're coming upon a holiday season, but we're seeing these problems. They don't seem to get better at any time. They're not better in the summer. They don't get worse when the students come back to UMass. They don't get worse. I mean, it's just bad all the time.
It's a mess.
So is there something, can we invite DOT?
So we have, Tim Barber has reached out to MassDOT, and we've requested a meeting to discuss this. At the great idea of Mr. McDonald, we actually are going to have DCTV go out there as well and do some recordings of, just to show exactly what is going on at this intersection. So MassDOT, when they go out there, we can actually show them these videos of multiple days of what we're experiencing. And then Tim Barber also notified me at our request that he has contacted VHB, who is our traffic engineer consultant, and they are looking at the signal sequence at both the Fons Corner Road intersection and the Tucker Road intersection to see if we can look at that sequence again and potentially clean that up.
Right.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Chris.
So, Chief, the sequencing is one thing, right? But when you roll up to a stop sign, maybe Steve would know this better. When you roll up to a stop light, you'll see that square, that it's almost like a metal detection in the road. I don't know if that detection detects metal or if it's movement. Do you have any idea what that does to you?
I believe it's a magnetic loop and it detects metal.
So that's what it is. All right. So if that's the case, then the request, I think the request should be of DOT when they, it's not going to be in the short term, but long term, when they finally get that area taken care of. It would seem to me that the backup starts at a certain point when the motion stops, say at like the third or fourth car at that light at Tucker Road. Right, so you get to that third or fourth car, because that light has changed, there's static motion there. The detection system could be there because then it could tell the other light, going to the technology, Heidi, tell the other light, all right, yellow, right away. So then you still have that queue. You've got maybe a 5-car queue in the yellow to get onto that small strip, but then after that, it's red. I mean, if they're going to blow through the red light, then they're going to blow through the red light. There's nothing we can do about that. But it seems to me that one of the questions for DOT that I'll have anyway is what's the mechanism that once the traffic is flowing through there, it turns red at Tucker, You know, how many cars can we get away with where that magnetic piece would pick up the fact that that car now is stopped? That should be the trigger for the other light. You know, granted, they're trying to get them in tandem now, I would assume, but there's got to be something else that we can do as far as the technology over there. It's all we have. I mean,
Right.
there's no other east to west corridor.
Yeah, and that's kind of our hope is, and maybe they don't want to make the investment because they have bigger plans, but the problem is that that plan is just taking too long.
Right.
And we're suffering now on a daily basis with this issue. I mean, red lights are something we can deal with, you know, but
Right.
blocking the intersection, it's a very difficult problem. And honestly, when we go out there and we do enforcement, we make it worse because there's really not a good place to even stop the cars.
Exactly,
And then we
yeah,
start
yeah.
pulling
It
into
becomes-
businesses and they get upset because now we're interrupting their business. They've been very gracious, but I mean, I can see where they'd probably rather we didn't jam up their parking lot with car stops as well.
Yeah.
So,
And it is very concerning because when we looked at the DOT plan in the past, DOT is talking about putting potentially another light at what is not the intersection now from Hathaway Road coming down, which would be a very short area. I mean, there's lots of, but we've got to fix what we have now.
yeah, and that area backs up as well, onto Tucker, you know, onto,
Yeah.
well, the stoplight at Tucker Road, the traffic signal there too, because a lot of cars do want to turn left onto Hathaway Road.
Well, going across, you're either at, what is it, Reed, Cross Road, Tucker Road, Slocum Road.
That's it.
That's all we have.
Route 6,
Route 6.
140 Parnell Avenue,
Oh, right, in New Bedford.
Route 88 to Westport Road.
Excuse me. I have a follow,
yes.
one other
Sorry,
follow-up
Sam.
on that lane that everybody seems to be using now. We should have a sign that says red, you can turn on red, right turn on red. People are reluctant to go through that red light, fortunately. If there was a sign there, that would give them the, you know, the safety feature to take a right on red.
Right now, the sign says you can't turn on red there.
And I think that's because the cars that are coming are sort of behind you coming. It's not a straight cross. Yes, Mr. Tattlebaum.
Certainly can't comment on traffic with the solutions, but it sounds like that right lane turning into extending that right lane is a good idea to Tucker Road. But in preparation for that meeting, are there any other practical, I don't need an answer now, that we could, practical solutions that aren't controversial or and they're inexpensive that we could bring to the meeting to say, why don't we suggest this and that? As opposed to, as well as having some DCTV film, that would be a great idea. But coming with some solutions that may work and they may accept to the meeting, I think would be a good idea, if there are any.
Yeah. Steve, do you have any other solutions that you'd like to talk about? You covered it right now.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. McDonald.
Well, I mean, as I've said many, many times before, I go through that intersection 4 times every day. There are some things that can be done. Number one, the extension of that right turn lane. You know, I don't know how much blowback you're going to get from DOT because you have 3 driveways in that area. You got the gas station, you have the jewelers, and now you have what's soon to be, I guess, at some point in time, an up and running car wash. And then you have the home. The lane is in front of the home, so I guess that's not too much of a concern. Having a right turn on red in that intersection at Tucker Road, allowing the cars to go there, will allow the cars to go, but it won't allow the trucks that use Tucker Road. Many trucks have to swing into the right turn lane, I'm sorry, the right lane to make that turn, as evidenced by my mother's car that had basically the side of the vehicle ripped open like a can opener. So that is not going to work for vehicles like that, including large 18-wheelers that use Tucker Road. So one way to deal with that is to stop large vehicles from going down Tucker Road and forcing them to use Slocum to Allen Street, and then at least in that section there, because to be honest with you, an 18-wheeler going through that chicane in front of Whiteweed Drive is just absolutely ridiculous. How we allow that, I have no idea. The other thing is the right turn lane from Old Westport Road onto Route 6. I understand, it alleviates a lot of the traffic in that area, but it also creates a lot of the problems. Personally, that should be a right turn only when traffic comes when it's allowed out of Old Westport Road, and the left turns from Route 6 onto Fons Corner Road and Old Westport Road. When traffic is heading south on Fons Corner Road to go eastbound on Route 6, that should be a red light. When traffic is going east and west, that should be a red light. Vehicles should not be allowed to move. That'll eliminate some of the problems. Another part of the problem that should be eliminated is the traffic light at Tucker Road. I can probably count how many times I'm traveling east or west on Route 6, waiting for traffic from Tucker Road to come, and there's no traffic, and the light is still red. And that creates a lot of the backup, is the timing. I understand Tucker Road at certain times of the day needs to have that traffic, but Tucker Road at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Tucker Road at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, or at 7 o'clock at night doesn't need the same timing as 2 or 4 o'clock, or whenever school gets out, or in the morning. It doesn't need that. That seems to be too long. The other thing is we have a nice little sign that nobody can see that says "Do not block the intersection." Well, there are communities that have larger signs, and they actually paint the box. That intersection needs to be painted by DOT, and it needs to go from the light, where the median strip ends at Route 6 and State Road and Fons Corner Road. That whole square needs to be painted, and it needs to be painted either with stripes, yellow, any kind of purple colors. I don't care. And the big-ass words should say, "Do not block the box." And maybe 50% of the people driving through that intersection will get the idea. The other 50%, clueless, they'll just continue to do what they need to do. And I've just seen it so many times. And you're right, you do have a problem making a left turn, okay? Maybe I don't have that problem because I have a truck and I can see a little higher, but, I can count how many times, I really can't count how many times I've been blasted by the horns, people behind me, because I've stopped, because I'm not going to the last thing I need to see is, oh, there's a selectman got stuck in the middle of the intersection over there. That's Facebook fodder, It's just very frustrating. And, and there was one time, and I really felt bad for the lady, older woman. She was stuck right in the middle, and the traffic was starting to go east and west on Route 6, and she was still stuck, and people were beeping the horns at her, and she was crying. And it was just like, okay, she made a mistake, give her a break. But still, it almost like getting your driver's license to some people almost like makes them an instant ass behind the wheel. And it gives them that right to do that, and that's not right, And it's just driving through that intersection 4 times, 6 times a day, it just gets so frustrating. And I can understand, the social media, well, where are the cops on that? Well, something, there's only so much you guys can do. This town is 64 square miles, 210 miles of road, maybe even longer now. There's only so much that you guys can do. And I'm thoroughly understand the businesses getting pissed off when you drive, you tag somebody, you got to bring them either into mobile. You're not going to bring them into the jewelers because that just blocks everybody in. And you're not going to bring them into the
Right now you can't.
Yeah, and you can't use the car wash. It almost seems like the town needs to buy that corner And that'll be our enforcement corner, so that we can get the cars, put them in there, and then take it on. And it's just not right. And Mass DOT knows that the light mechanism at Tucker Road and the light mechanism at Fons Corner Road is like a Model A Ford compared to a Corvette. Plain and simple. They're not going to talk to each other. No matter how much we sit up here and say they should need to talk to, they're not going to talk to each other because it's too separate, too old and they're not going to put the money into upgrading an intersection that they're eventually going to do something with in a couple of years. You know, and they just need to come down here for themselves and take a look at it. And that was the idea of getting DCTV at least involved so that they, for themselves, I'm sure many of them understand, you know, and I was told that 2 of the engineers that now are at Mass DOT live in town. So maybe, you know, we can get a little headway. You know, like I said, if we stop the right turn from Old Westport Road onto Route 6 through two parts of the cycle and paint the box, at least to kind of give everybody a clue that this is the area you're not supposed to block, maybe it'll alleviate 50% of the problem. I don't know. But then again, I'm just a guy that just drives through that intersection 6 times a week, and I don't really know what I'm talking about.
So we have, what we've said tonight is that we're going to schedule a meeting with DOT. We'd like the DPW, the police department, and the select board present at the meeting to discuss
Oh, I'll be there.
some options, and a meeting with the light sequence company, which I didn't get a
They're already looking at it.
They're looking at it.
VHB is our consultant.
VHB.
Yeah, but it's too old.
So we're on the move. Good luck as we approach the holiday season. Everybody out there. But don't go too far, Chief, because our next item on the agenda is our concern about electric scooter helmet safety discussion. And I know Officer Canary is going to join you up there so we can get a handle on that, because we're seeing that here, there, and everywhere. Especially what I'm seeing is young teenage drivers. So, what are you seeing?
So it's gotten a little bit complicated out there with all the different little vehicles these days, and they're in all different categories, and even the RMV is trying to still decide on some. You know, when you say scooters, that's normally something that has like a handle on it. You drive. There's also electric bikes. There's 2 recognized classes of electric bikes, and then there's like almost a 3rd class that doesn't fall within the other 2 that they're still working on. So there's a lot of different vehicles out there these days that we're seeing, and they all actually have different rules and regulations that go along with them that deal with the registrations and helmets and whether you need to have a permit and a license or not, if you can have passengers, and even if you have to wear a helmet, if you can drive them during the day or at night. We've actually got different charts we have to use to consult when we, you know, stop these vehicles to figure out what they are, what category they fall into, and then what the requirements are on them. But for younger people, you know, under 18, they do have to wear helmets when they're on these different vehicles.
I realize as someone who has children long over 18, but I know as a parent that you can send them out with the helmet on, and there's no guarantee when they're out of your sight. I think we need to somehow educate our parents and our students and our what can happen when you're not wearing as graphic as possible in some situations. I know I was up on Old Westport Road, and that seems to be a very popular mode of transportation from the university and around the university. But I see it on every street, all times a day. And you're right, I've seen scooters, but scooters that you sit on versus the stand-up scooter and different bikes, and there's a heavy price tag with them. So it's not something that to be taken lightly.
Yeah. No, it's very dangerous.
And I've seen, I know my husband, clocked one that he drove with, got up to 35 miles an hour on his electric bike. That's fast.
Oh, yeah, that's real fast. We have cited people for not wearing helmets. I looked at some of the data we have available, about a half dozen. We do have a problem also with these different vehicles not commonly stopping for us. Frequently, they flee, and there's not a lot we're going to do with that at this time. We don't have any great way of stopping them, and we don't want to see them get into an accident and get hurt or hurt someone else while they're trying to get away for a helmet violation or something of that sort as well. But we are out there looking for them when we can see them, and we do cite them, but they're not all required to wear helmets either. If it's like the college students potentially, they'd be over 18 and they wouldn't be required to wear a helmet on these different bicycles and so forth that they're riding around on. It's still always a good idea. We would encourage it. It's kind of like, a seatbelt, for instance. They do a great job, but you got to put them on. And the same thing with helmets.
But what you were saying is, depending on the bike or the scooter, does it depend on how fast it's capable of going would dictate whether or not they have to wear a helmet, not just their age?
Right, yes. If they go over 20 miles an hour, then they consider it a motorized bike instead of like an e-bike. And at that point, they actually should be technically registered. The person would need either a permit or a license to operate them, and they'd have to wear a helmet. That means they're assisted at over 20 miles an hour. So if the person's able to somehow pedal this with their own power, you see how it gets complicated real quick with these things. Now, if they're going 35, I'm pretty sure they're probably not pedaling a bigger bike like an e-bike at that speed. They weigh a lot more than a regular bike, and so it's going to be very hard to get that thing to go 35 miles an hour without a motor assisting it. So that therefore would fall into a different category, almost a class 3, which hasn't been officially recognized yet, but they call it a motorized bike. And it would need to be registered, and the person would have to have a permit or a license to even drive the thing. So there's a lot of regulations on something that could go that fast. And there's also speed limits that they talk about, that then even if it could go faster, they're not supposed to, because at some point they almost become a motorcycle if they can go a certain speed. Because a lot of the definitions actually rely on how fast the vehicle can go with the assistance of the motor.
Ms. Book?
Yes, Mr. Talbot.
Clearly, I think the issue really is it's a giant safety phenomenon that needs to be established rules not only within a town but within the state, because we need to have consistent rules from town to town. I have a feeling also that based on this, what I see is this. I think a lot of people, kids driving, not even kids, young adults driving these, they may have lost their license, so they're they're more reckless than others because they don't have a lot of rules or respect for them, because it's frightening how it's done. Is there anything that we can do within reason, based on your recommendation, knowing that there are no enforcement, the rules are confusing, they're not consistent, that we can do to maybe enforce something that we're doing, or let people know what the rules are in some way? Not trying to make more work for you, but right now it's like a Wild West show out there. Is there anything we can do to tighten that up, or is it just going to have to suffer through it?
I mean, we can try to do education out there, push different informational things out, or even stop people and educate them, as opposed to issuing, some kind of a citation at that point. And even parents. I think it was mentioned earlier about educating parents. I think a lot of parents don't realize some of the regulations on these bikes that they may even be buying for their children to ride and letting them ride around without understanding, what they need to be able to do that, and the dangers of riding without helmets and stuff like that.
Even at the minimum, we could even post on either on the website and rules here, what are the basic rules that people need to follow? I don't think anybody knows what the rules are, because they're different and depending upon the vehicle and all that sort of thing. Is there anything we can do, or are we?
Oh, I definitely think things that you're saying we can. I have a little script of ideas. Go ahead, Stan.
Maybe we can use the signs that we have, the police department signs, and get some awareness for that, those particular rules and regulations possibly. Maybe the parents will read it and pay some attention, especially for the younger kids.
Yeah, we might have to refer them to another resource, just because there's so much that
Right.
we could never fit it all on a little sign, but we could have a resource available on a website that we could direct them to based on a sign.
And maybe even post them in the schools, just something to do more than we're doing. And I know that's not an ultimate solution, but on the other hand, nobody knows what the rules are.
We can certainly think about, a picture of what the model looks like and what the model, this model, kind of a triangle, this model, your age, the speed equals, I don't know.
It's too convoluted.
Chris, did you have anything, or?
Yeah, after being in the insurance business for almost 40 years, you can't exclude stupidity, so we know that. And you can't legislate against it either. If there's a way to have a pamphlet that we can produce and put it in the schools so they know it, and instead of issuing a citation to some of these kids, you have it in the car and you give it to them and say, listen, next time, it's gonna be a citation. What else are you gonna do?
Yeah, and a lot of the people driving these are not kids either. Sometimes they're older folks that may have lost their license, and now they're driving these, but a lot of these still require a license. And that's what we run into as well. They either unaware of it or they don't care about it, but they're driving them without a license, even though the vehicle they're driving requires a license, and sometimes registration.
The DA's office used to offer a helmet safety program. Do you have any idea if they still do?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't heard about it in a while, if they've done anything with that, but,
I'll look into that.
yeah. We've given them out
I
in
know
the
we've
past,
had
too.
them come to school before and sold helmets at a reduced rate. This was, I'm talking, a few years ago.
We can save one reckless kid, a driver
Yeah.
of these things, by doing something that we're not doing.
It's just now that it gets dark so early, if they're out there, even if they're coming home from school or practice, it's dark at 4:30. All right, well, we will put our heads together. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Officer Canario, thank you for coming tonight, and we'll see what we can do out of this office.
Yeah, we'll work with the chief and get some
Yeah, I'm thinking like some
information posted.
PSAs that we can do, put on DCTV and
Yeah, we'll work over
talk to the
next
school
couple
department.
months, get things together.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, no.
And I'll take a look at that other thing. All right. E, town administrators' goals.
Yes, so these have not changed since the last time. The board had given some feedback on the select board goals, which is item F, but these, I did not receive any feedback to change these based on anything different from last time. So if all looks well, I would ask that the board adopt these for the, through 2026.
Are you referring to the town administrator goals?
Yes.
Okay.
Motion made to adopt.
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded. Any questions on them?
Good luck.
Yeah, so Cody, I'm looking, and I think we talked about potentially talking about this quarterly,
Yeah, I think we do
but at
quarterly.
this,
Sorry, go ahead.
no, I'm just thinking, like, at this time, it's November.
March would be
Well,
good.
March,
Yeah,
full
I think
months
so.
in, yeah. Okay, I
I
think
would
that
say
makes
we
sense.
will align these with the select board goals where we'll do updates quarterly. First one in March on progress, things change, where we are and where we're going.
Okay. I also, at a department head meeting, if you'd have the opportunity to share, that way they're aware of what the connection to them is. Because I think the model that we're using would also be helpful for some of our department heads to take and say, okay, if I'm listed here, when we talk about individuals or departments, like who's going to contribute with you, okay, if I'm on more than one of these, I need to know what I'm going to be asked to do or how I'm going to be reporting out. So I do think that would be important.
We'll share these, and we will also make sure that everyone's aware of the select board goals once you've adopted those. So our departments, as they go into the FY '27 budget process, are aligning their goals with the goals of the select board.
Excellent. All right. So we,
Need to vote on those?
yes, Yes. So do we have a motion?
Chris?
There was,
You just-
yes and
you just
yes?
had it, right.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Sorry about that. All right, next. I want us to look at the select board goals, but I wanted to read a statement, which is a statement written by myself. And I have not had the opportunity to collaborate with members of the board, but I did want them to weigh in on it. It is a lengthy item, but I, like many others, have received a number of emails from concerned citizens. I may have received more than others because having my relationship with the school department for a few years. So I just wanted to read this, and I will be, I just feel that it's lengthy, but it has a lot of information. So, to all of you who are here and at home, thank you for reaching out and for your continued advocacy for our schools. The Select Board recognizes that a strong school system is essential to the well-being of our community, and we take seriously our responsibility to ensure that the school department has the resources it needs to serve Dartmouth students effectively. While the Select Board does not set the school department's budget or determine how funds are allocated within the district, we do play a critical role in working with the school committee, the finance committee, and town administration to ensure that our overall town budget is responsible, sustainable, and aligned with the community priorities. This includes supporting appropriate increases to the school budget when they are justified, fiscally sound, and feasible within the town's broader financial framework. We are committed to maintaining open communication with school leadership to understand needs, pressures, and long-term planning, evaluating revenue and spending town-wide so that any increase to the school budget is part of a balanced, responsible fiscal plan, supporting investments that strengthen education, protect essential services, and preserve Dartmouth's financial stability, advocating for efficiencies and long-term solutions so that we can meet today's needs without placing an undue burden on taxpayers. We appreciate the community's engagement and passion for our schools. Your input plays an important role in the budget process, and we encourage ongoing dialogue as we work together to support Dartmouth students while also being good stewards of the town's finances.
Wasn't that long?
Longer than normal.
Not when it comes to me, no. I've never been but I really wanted to paint a picture of our role as a select board in the process. And I think as we are heading into a new fiscal season, it's going to be important for us to look at the departments, all departments, and see what the needs are. And at some point, the conversation may in fact be that the needs are outweighing or outpacing the budget that we have, the money that we have available to us. And that would end up being a different conversation than how we can move money around within the one Dartmouth pie that we have. Did anyone have anything
can
to
speak?
say? Sure.
I think it's, as always, Mrs. Brooks, I think it's well-written. You covered a lot of ground, and I don't think there's anything there that you can disagree with. However, I had an addendum to simply add to one of the financial health goals. It could be any one of them, maybe even 1.3, but the 1.3 says establish the budget advisory group to work collaboratively with the select board, finance committee, and school committee, and the town's leadership team, with particular emphasis on the goal of increasing the percentage of town funds spent on our schools. We are not the school committee. We don't set their budget. We don't know what they need. They have to tell us That's not what this is for. This is to emphasize the goal of spending more, whatever those funds are, however we can do it, to spend more on our schools than we do now. Period. I don't think it,
You making that a motion? 1.3?
I'd like to go through, we can certainly, but I want to go through so that
no, I'm not ready to make a motion yet, but I think that,
so that the folks here and at home can also see, and they won't see it, but they will hear it, that taking the language of the school department's mission statement and putting it into our document. So we added, united as one Dartmouth, we are invested in the ongoing improvement of our community. That's the statement that the school department starts with. And then the next statement goes into the school department's role, focusing on their task as schools. So what Mr. Haddad and I have looked at is taking our statement and putting it, so we start out with that, and then under financial health, we have the Dartmouth Select Board is dedicated to safeguarding the town's long-term financial health through responsible planning, transparent governance, and strategic investment. We are committed to managing public resources with integrity, ensuring that taxpayer dollars are used efficiently and effectively to support high-quality services, strengthen infrastructure, and promote community well-being. Through thoughtful budgeting, collaborative decision-making, and a focus on sustainability, the Select Board works to maintain financial stability today while building a resilient foundation for Dartmouth's future. So we added that under financial health, and we actually tweaked so that each of the goals have a statement, like our mission statement for financial health. That's our mission statement, which is very encompassing. So now when we go down to our goal, 1.1, review all operations to ensure efficiency is maximized, expenses are limited to necessary functions of government operations, and revenues are consistent with best practices within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. 1.2, implement the compensation and classification study and negotiate employee contracts that balance competitive compensation with fiscal constraints, including phased benefit enhancements. 1.3, establish the Budget Advisory Committee to work collaboratively with the Select Board, Finance Committee, School Committee, and the town's leadership team. 1.4, work through the FY27 budget process to identify operational areas where greater financial investment may be necessary that allows Dartmouth to exceed in service delivery and develop a plan to address the identified needs.
As a note, Madam Chair, the board had directed me to develop some language in response to the concern that Mr. Tattlebaum had brought up about the schools. 1.4 is what I had developed, recognizing that the schools is certainly an important function. However, I think there needs to be a greater evaluation of all departments. The reality being, if we are going to look at increasing our share of the schools, that likely means cuts, to other departments. And so we need to, that's part of a greater mission, which I think 1.4 covers, because it's, to Mr. Tattlebaum's point, if you're looking at increasing a percentage, that only comes from somewhere else. And so that needs to be part of the.
That's what I want to do.
So I just think, but it's important. I also mentioned this to the school administration, and it's the board's decision. However, I will tell you, my concern with explicitly calling out an increase to the schools and your goals is I think we have, there's very good ongoing relationships right now among all the departments. And what I don't want to see is so early on in the process, if the board sets out to say that they're going to increase that and essentially decrease other places, those relationships can sometimes go downhill because it can be viewed as being pitting against each other. Not that that would happen, but I've seen that in other communities, and I just don't want to see that occur.
That's why I carefully, my wording was a goal. It's a goal of increasing, and I think that within reason, if it's possible, that's the language that I chose. I think we've done this year in, year out, what we're stating here, but we put it in writing that we're doing what we have been doing. But what I'm asking for is that we change our course. It's a goal, and if it's within reason, we do it. And sometimes goals can't be reached for whatever the reasons may be, but it's a goal. It's something we have not committed to in the past. And I think that we, other departments, the schools have, well, I'll leave it at that.
I know you had talked about adding it to 1.3,
No,
but I think 1.3 specifically is on the Budget Advisory Group.
No, 1.4 would be better. 1.4 is much better. I can appreciate, Cody, what you're saying about pitting one group against another, but I don't think that's the case. If it's a goal, that we try to do it with the same kind of efficiency and common sense, because I think that we need to change the goal, which we've never stated before.
As you know, I come from the school department lens.
Yeah.
And in running for this seat, the criticism that I got to be on this board and being here for solely the school department, I just want to say that my promise was that I would look after every department. And that being said, I personally have always looked at the department, the school department, and what their needs are, and up until as recent as February 2025, was still working and consulting with the school department as a building administrator. And I can't not think about what they need. The issue becomes when we look at efficiencies and what we look at with every other town department that we're responsible for, we're not the responsible party to look at the school department budget that same way. So as we're doing for example, the class and comp study, that's information that we, as a select board, will be looking at for every department except the school department. What is the job description? What is the compensation? The only time that we're going to be looking at all Town of Dartmouth employees is when we review what we can do for the benefit package. Because the benefit package is something that every town employee receives, no matter what department you're in. And the benefit package currently is not a school department expense. The benefit package comes in the town budget, so it's not something that is culled out into the school department. I think it's an additional $6 million. And if I know that we get a lot of pushback on that benefit package, especially when it's time for negotiations, and we have not reached a share between the town and the employee, where employees are feeling that they're making out on that deal. Because every time we've negotiated a benefit change, then the insurance company comes in and sort of throws it all out of whack, just when we think we're making headway on that. So I'm not saying, I'm certainly, and I appreciate and applaud that there's another member on the select board that wants to look at the school department budget. But we, as not only a board, but through town meeting, have always approved the school department budget that they have forwarded to us. So to me, that would be our role. And if the school department presented us with a budget, our role then becomes, how do we support that budget? And again, from that one Dartmouth pie, how do we support the budget?
The message from town meeting was, I think, crystal clear, that we established a group, and Gary's had great experience with the Budget Advisory Group. If there was a way to find out programs or things we do in town that maybe could be either more efficient or maybe even be eliminated because we don't need it, or we can do without it, or something in the schools is more important, that's a place maybe we can find. I'm looking for a swap, and it's a goal to find that swap. The message was clear. And if it doesn't work and it's too tight, and I'm very aware of the expense we have and the long-term cost of what we're up front of, this is a goal to try to change the mix of what we do in schools for our town. And I'm hopeful it's possible, but if we don't state it as a goal, it will not happen because there isn't enough money. We're in a bind. We don't have the revenue. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't try to be more efficient and swap that goal to try to do more than what we're doing. I think the school department, and this has nothing to do with the budget they've delivered to us, because they're trying hard to be efficient. They do a great job with as we've heard many, many times, the schools do an incredible job. We get great bang for the buck, but it's still not enough. And the statistics show it. If it's possible, we need to have a goal to try to make it possible. That's what I'm saying. In the end of the day, we have good people. We have great leadership. Cody will work with us with all departments. He's proven he's ready to do that, to say, in the end of the day, either it's going to work or it's not. But without a goal, I think it'd be a lost cause.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a hold on 1.4. That way we can come back to any of these goals that anyone feels need to be tweaked. So that was fiscal planning, which was our financial health. That's the first goal we have. Our second goal is long-range planning. And here, again, the mission statement, stealing that mission statement, united as one Dartmouth, we are invested in the ongoing improvement of our community. In long-range planning, the Dartmouth Select Board is committed to guiding the town's long-term growth through thoughtful, data-driven, and community-centered planning. We strive to anticipate future needs, protect Dartmouth's unique character, and strengthen the quality of life for all residents. By fostering collaboration, encouraging public participation, and aligning strategic goals across departments, the Select Board works to ensure that Dartmouth's infrastructure, services, and resources evolve responsibly and sustainably. Our dedication to long-range planning reflects our belief in building a resilient, vibrant, and well-prepared Dartmouth for generations to come. So under long-term planning, we had goal 2.1, support the long-range capital planning committee in identifying projects like construction of schools, water and sewer infrastructure, and recreational facilities. Prepare a plan for review and endorsement by the Select Board that includes comprehensive funding opportunities. 2.2, work with local and state agencies, example DEP, EPA, on environmental priorities such as water quality and coastal resilience. Support the Water Quality Advisory Committee to identify and accomplish improved water quality throughout all of Dartmouth. 2.3, review and identify specific projects within the master plan and open space and recreation plan that the town should pursue. Ensure that development and projects moving forward are consistent with these strategic plans for the town. Did anyone on the board have something they wanted to discuss within long-term planning? No?
No, it's all here.
Okay. Number 3, economic development. So again, I'm just going to scoot back up. Economic development. United as one Dartmouth, we are invested in the ongoing improvement of our community. The Dartmouth Select Board is dedicated to fostering a strong, diverse, and resilient local economy that supports opportunity, innovation, and a high quality of life for all residents. We strive to create a welcoming environment for business, strengthen partnerships with community stakeholders, and encourage responsible growth that aligns with the town's long-term goals. Through thoughtful policymaking, strategic investment, and transparent collaboration, the Select Board works to enhance Dartmouth's economic vitality while preserving the community's unique character and ensuring a prosperous future for generations to come. And under here, we have 3.1, develop an economic development committee/task force to be charged with identifying economic development strategies for the town. 3.2, review permitting process and supporting infrastructure that will lead to greater support of new development. And 3, develop a marketing strategy for Dartmouth that highlights its unique attributes. Anyone under economic development?
Outstanding.
All right. 4, I won't go back up again. The Dartmouth Select Board is committed to maintaining effective, efficient, and transparent internal operations that uphold the highest standards of public service. We strive to strengthen organizational performance through clear communication, responsible management, and continuous improvement across all town departments. By fostering collaboration, supporting professional development, and ensuring accountability, the Select Board works to create a well-coordinated municipal organization that delivers reliable, high-quality services to the community. Our dedication to strong internal operations reflects our responsibility to serve residents with integrity, responsiveness, and operational excellence. And under this, we have 1, conduct operational studies for key departments, for example, the Public Works. 2, develop a staffing plan, including recruitment for diverse talent and professional development programs. 3, integrate modern technologies such as AI tools for data analysis, procurement, and meeting minutes. 4, provide training opportunities for boards, committees, and staff in areas such as roles and responsibilities, management, budgeting, conflict management, etc. Explore shared services with the school department in the areas like HR and expand on the One Dartmouth approach. Anyone there?
Beautiful.
All right. And then our goal 5, which is communication and transparency. The Dartmouth Select Board is committed to fostering open, honest, and accessible communication that strengthens the trust between the town government and community. We strive to ensure that information is shared clearly, proactively, and across multiple platforms so that residents can stay informed, engaged, and involved in town decision-making. Through transparent process, timely updates, and a culture of accountability, the Select Board works to uphold the principles of good governance and ensure that every resident has the opportunity to understand, participate in, and contribute to Dartmouth's future. And under here, we have 1, host a Citizens Academy to better inform our residents of the operations of the town and engage our youth early on. 2, establish streamlined protocols for public records requests. 3, publish an online budget portal with real-time budget information available at all times. Host annual community forums and visioning sessions for input on priorities. Work with UMass Dartmouth's leadership to reaffirm the town's commitment to the town gown and coordinate a series of collaborative activities, events. Under this one, the only one thing that I was thinking of when we were talking about communication and transparency is looking at our website. And I know that we've updated the website, but I still don't find it to be completely user-friendly. And I'm wondering if we should have a goal on the website and getting a, even a recap or highlights of what's happening, some sort of reel to the
An update?
website.
Like an update of
An
some sort?
update, whether it comes from our board or from you, of things that have happened, things that are coming down the pike. I just find that our website, if you have been to it before and know where you're going, you know where to go. It's your first time on. I know even myself when I've tried to look up, where is the charter? under the charter, it's not there. It's buried under town clerk, and then you go and it's got the different things. So I just think that we need, and I know we're going through this change from to dartmouthma.gov. I don't know if there'll be any ahas as we make this transition and look at other municipalities. I just don't think it's, when we talk about communication and transparency, I think it's the first place people go to find answers. And
I think, Heidi, it goes to Cody's goal, number one. To ensure efficiency is maximized, expenses and functions of government operations. I don't know if we need it in ours. I think we'll hold him to that.
asking him to it.
That's
Yeah,
fine, we can look at that.
It's more of a granular part of this whole thing.
Don't forget, we're redoing
Yeah, we gotta get through that.
that whole system, and
Right.
maybe we should get a better look-see once it's up and running, and work from that point on.
I think once we have a communications coordinator again, who I anticipate a lot
Yeah.
of this will be able to get cleaned up. They'll work with our department heads too to clean up the website, and we can post a lot of the, just a lot more information. The reality of it right now is just the human capital of getting it done. But once we
Getting it
have
done,
that
right.
position
Okay.
filled again, I'm confident we'll be able to.
All right, thank you, Chris, for pointing out that it can be covered within Cody's. I just find that that's one thing. All right, so the only hole we have is on 1.4. And so, Dave, would you, I'm going to read the 1.4 as it currently has, and would you tell me what your additional statement would be? So it says, work through the FY27 budget process to identify operational areas where greater financial investment may be necessary that allows Dartmouth to excel in service delivery and develop a plan to address the identified needs.
With particular emphasis on the goal of increasing the percentage of town funds spent on our schools. With the particular emphasis on the goal of increasing the percentage of town funds spent on our schools.
This is just so I understand, as I'll likely be the one leading
I'd
these
be-
goals.
Yep.
So that would mean that if we were to identify additional revenues to come into the town, we're still going to want to reduce financial investment in other departments, because percentage, right, we're talking about percentage. So if right now we are 55%, we want to increase percentage. So the goal as stated would be basically to reroute funds from somewhere, whether it's through efficiencies, reductions, whatever it may be, to the school department. Not just looking at potential new revenues to.
And not even through taxes at this point either.
It could be anything, yeah.
Right.
But there's a pie, 100%, and we're saying increase the percentage of that.
To me, a goal means that you'd like to try to change that percentage. And if it's there because we have found ways to do it, then we are able to then do it. If we find at the end of the day that it's impossible, and as a group we agree that it's not going to work, then that's the way to go. Then we have reasons to do it. But it doesn't mean ironclad that we have to increase it, although that is the goal. And that's why I chose that language.
So would that be
So what if it was with particular emphasis?
I'd be happy to, if there's other language you want to recommend, I'd be more than willing to hear it.
I guess I'm just wanting to say with particular emphasis of supporting the needs of the school department. But in looking at the knowledge we have, and I am thinking of when we talk about long-term planning, identifying projects like the construction of schools, water and sewer infrastructure, and recreational facilities. I'm still hung up on water and sewer infrastructure. And what are we going to do should we need to, which is completely different because, as I'm talking through it, and I apologize for that, enterprise funds. I mean, we just saw a budget deficit that we discussed at town meeting, and we're going to need to address the enterprise funds as we go forth to pay the bills of FY '26.
Ms. Brooks,
So,
there's probably 10 other issues that are going to come up that are going to be expensive, and ones that we don't even know of yet that we're going to have to face in the next year's budget. And certainly, there will be sizable, and planning for long-range planning is a practice that we're going through now that we haven't done before. But on a year-to-year basis, and how much we spend on our schools, that's operationally, to me, that's also long-range planning. What is the long-range plan for how much we spend as a town on our schools? And one way to do that is to look at the operational fund and how much we spend and what percentage the town is. It's a goal, and I just say it once again, without a goal, we'll not do it.
I understand goals, Dave.
Yeah.
Every airline has the goal of landing 100% of their flights. Mm-hmm. No, we're not getting on the plane if their goal is 80%. Mm-hmm. But I'll go back to my concern about putting a percentage. The school department is currently 52.
Okay, we have the.
No, it's more than that.
Is Gary?
Gary?
The percentage of the school department budget of our total budget?
55? Yeah, 55.
Right. I guess my only hang is that, can we say it with the particular emphasis of supporting the needs of the school department? Are you bound to the percentage language that you have?
I'm bound to a goal that's higher. It's a goal to be higher.
Could I have input from anyone
So,
else?
Dave, I get your point.
Yep.
Right? You need the emphasis put there. Again, getting too granular on it at this stage of the game, I think is not where I'd like to be. I'd like, to put a specific emphasis on per pupil costs, with the goal of increasing it. That takes out the whole decrease in enrollment. If the enrollment drops, I'd rather get into the granular on, my word of the day, I guess, on the school department, when I can sit on this budget advisory group and get into what's going to happen with school choice. What school districts are becoming more competitive, and are we going to lose a certain number of kids on that number for Dartmouth? What do the enrollment numbers look like? Give me 3 and 4 years and 5 years out. The health insurance costs, that's going to be a significant number. Hopefully, once we really get into that, hopefully, a much more competitive number that we can work on the percentage of allocation, which would have a huge impact on our competitiveness on those particular jobs, not only the school department, but also all the other jobs in town, which is really one of the fundamental goals that I have. We'll be at the table. We'll be at the table to get into all of those particular issues. And I think, just looking through some of a lot of the things that we've got here, there is a significant number of times that we're mentioning the school department, that we're, I think it shows a bigger commitment from this particular board. Listen, I might be wrong, but from what I've seen in the last, probably 5 years looking at what has been done up here, I think there's a change happening, and on exactly what the commitments are for this town. I think in that the meeting that we had with the school department,
we highlighted a lot of those, and the fact that we've changed the commitment a little bit, and we're trying to find the places. I'm not sure we get too deep into it on this particular document. However, you know, with an emphasis on per pupil spending, you know, something like that, I guess would be okay with me. But I'm hesitant to get too far down the road in this particular document because there are many places that we mention the school department. My main concern is what I'm going to find out when I get in to the budget advisory group. With the same idea, with the same emphasis that yes, you know, this is that department, even though you may not have children, like I said in that meeting, the joint meeting that we had, you may not have children in the system, but you cannot deny the fact that you have gained from having a stronger system. And it's eroding. I think we all know that. We can agree to that without taking a vote on anything. And that's the sense I get anyway from everybody on the board, that value is eroding. And we can feel it, we know it, and we have to step up and try and figure out ways to plug those gaps. But without getting too specific on the financial health aspect of it, because again, we do have the other departments. I don't know what other kind of bombs are going to be dropped from other departments. I can't commit myself to a specific increase in a goal. I mean, I don't want to come across as, you know, pandering either. You know, where I say, oh, absolutely, we're going to increase it by 10%, and listen, you know, I can't do that either. I mean, you have to have a serious discussion on this group about exactly what the numbers are. And then I think the Budget Advisory Group could come back with a pretty clear idea of what we can do as a select board going forward. But I think the overall goal is to make it stronger, to make the system stronger.
Mr. McDonald, did you have any thoughts?
Actually, I got a lot of thoughts, to be honest with you.
Anything fit to be said?
Oh,
from the
yeah.
microphone?
No, seriously. No, nothing like that, that's for sure.
Okay.
As the only member sitting on this current board who's had experience, has 15 years on the school committee, what is being said now was being said 10 years ago, what was being said 20 years ago, what was being said 30 years ago. It's the same thing. Town of Dartmouth has always been, for the longest time, it was 50-50. School department got 50% of the budget, and the town side, for all intents and purposes, got the other 50%. And it really isn't that, because when you look at the benefit side and you look at the health cost side, all that comes from the town government side. What is being proposed by Selectman Tattlebaum, I think, is already well established in 1.3 and 1.4. The problem is that if you specifically say one of the goals is to look to increase the school department budget, you are now sending a signal to the DPW, to police, to town hall, to the libraries, that we're looking to shift funds from those departments to the school department. And the thing is that you sitting up here trying to create a balance, and that if you don't really support the amendment that Mr. Tattlebaum is suggesting, then you become anti-school, and that's not necessary. That's not the case at all. I had asked Mr. Carrero, and we're going to talk about the beast in the room that nobody wants to talk about, and that's an operational override. In order to bring the school department in their per pupil expenditure to the state level, you would need to have an operational override of about $14 million. And how does that translate it to the
average median home in the town of Dartmouth, your taxes would increase by roughly $1,000 a year, plain and simple. And that's, what was the home, Gary, about?
Average home,
Yeah.
609,000.
All right, $609,000. So if your home is valued at $609,000, a $14 million operational override, which is a forever override, your taxes would increase $1,000. So if your home is more, your taxes would be more. So that's what you really want to. That is the thing that people need to discuss. Are the people in this town willing to do an operational override in order to get the type of school system and town government that they want? And that's the thing that needs to be discussed. Because, to be honest with you, you have, on the average, 10% of the voting population in this town that basically runs this town.
Yeah, that's,
What's happened to the other 90%? Home, coming home from work, staying at home. Oh, I don't remember when's the town election? Oh, it's in April. Oh, I forgot. You know, that's the thing that nobody wants to talk about, is you need an operational override. When this town, along with two other communities, back in the 80s, if I remember correctly, when Proposition 2.5 was first come about, this town did a property revaluation. They were only one of three other communities that did it. The town, we live by 2.5, but we're not getting 2.5. We get on the average somewhere around 2.2, 2.1 of what we should have been doing. And we've been behind the 8 ball since day one on this. If we were like the other communities and not did it, you know, maybe our finances would be a little bit more than what we have. The per pupil spending basically has always been, the town of Dartmouth has always been in the 200s. We've never been in the 3, thank God. Thank goodness, excuse me, depends upon your deity. We've never been in the 300s, but we've never been any higher than, I believe, 202, if I'm not mistaken. That's really what needs to be discussed, is an operational override. And the town had proposed it 17 years ago, 20 years ago, something to that effect, in a piecemeal approach, and some were approved, some were not. So, I mean, we've done debt exclusions for good causes. The high school, police station. But we really haven't done a strategic and a thoughtful, fully discussed operational override. I mean, there are so many arguments for, and there's an equal number of arguments against it, you know. I think one of the biggest arguments for it is, look at our tax rate. Look at our tax rate. You know, our tax rate's under $10 a thousand. There aren't that many communities in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that have a tax rate of less than $10. You know, take a look at these communities who are at the top tier of who are above net school spending. You know, they're around the $25 to $30 per thousand rate. You know, I'm not sure what a $14 million operational override would be. as far as what it would adjust to the tax rate, but, you know, added to $1,000 to your tax base, and I guess you can kind of work that number backwards. But the other thing is too, you know, if we're going to have an operational override, you know, I think it'd only be fair that it be a all-encompassing override. You know, we have some severe needs in our DPW, in our water system, in our treatment plant that, you know, needs to be taken care of. You know, I just think the way 1.3, 1.4 takes care of what we have made this commitment. And then I'll be honest with you, you know, Chris is right. Mr. O'Neill is correct. There has been a change in the demeanor of this board when it comes time to the school department, because I'll be honest with you, 20 years ago, it ain't gonna happen. That was us versus them back then. It's no longer us versus them. It's us, plain and simple. And
It's us all together.
right, you know, and whether it's one Dartmouth or no, it's us, all of Dartmouth, you know. And I even go so far back as when I first came on this board. You know, I asked the town administrator at the time, I said, you know, why does our letterhead say North Dartmouth? Why does the school department's letterhead say South Dartmouth? It's Dartmouth. The only reason why we're north and south is because some bureaucrat in Washington said we have to have 2 zip codes in this town. Well, to be honest with you, we had 4. We really have 4 zip codes in this town. We have 1-4, and we have another one which used to be the non-quit post office, which no longer exists. And the 1-4 no longer exists. That was the paid Narren post office. So, you know, that I think it takes care of it. And I think by adding the phrase that Mr. Tattlebaum wants, I think it sends a message to the other departments that, you know, it sends the wrong message to them. So I won't vote for that change. I will vote for these goals. I will work to make sure, you know, that there's an equal representation on the budget for everybody. I don't develop the school budget. And that's the other problem with the school budget. The school budget is regulated heavily by the state and by the federal government because you have to have this, you have to have that, you have to have this to meet your accreditation and whatnot. And that puts a big, huge burden on them because they have to take care of those requirements and then work to see what they have. And then the numbers of the population changes on a yearly basis. People move in, people move out, people go somewhere else. So that's a different number altogether, and it makes it difficult for them. And that was a problem, you know, 15 years ago, actually 16 years ago, and it's still a problem today. And I think that's, you know, but I think the tenor of us versus them has greatly reduced because it's now us, we all, or however you want to put it. And I just think, you know, by adding that phrase, I think it's sending a message to the other departments, sending a wrong message. But, you know, but we're not going to get anywhere without, to be honest with you, we're not going to get anywhere with any of this without an operational override. However that takes place or takes shape, I don't know. That's something that, you know, the Budget Advisory Group is going to have to take a very deep look at. Mm-hmm. And that would be one of the things I would emphasize with the Budget Advisory Group on what would an operational override look like and what would be the effects and how it would come about. Because not every department needs an operational override. School department sure in hell does. DPW sure in hell does, you know? So that's my 2
I
cents.
do think when we've talked before about the Budget Advisory Group and the work of the Finance Committee and how that they have been, last year, meeting with all the departments and hearing what their needs are in addition to what they were able to put in their budget, has been helpful in building a picture for us to know where we are. But I know Ms. Ham had her hand up as a member of the Finance Committee.
Yeah, I wouldn't be speaking as a member.
Okay, okay,
Do you want me to still say something?
sure.
I don't represent the Finance Committee. My name is Terry Ham. I live at 30 Alden Ave in Dartmouth. The school department is distinctly different from the other departments because it's the only department that has had to lay people off year after year after year. Other departments have not laid people off. Perhaps language like adequately funded would be better than going for a percentage or a per pupil amount, because I understand the concerns about putting a number on it. You don't know what it is. There's a lot more to the budget than what you just described, Mr. McDonald. And there are people who have been working on it, but it came to a head last year at town meeting that it is a big concern of people, and it is different from the enterprise funds of the DPW. So I think that having that as a specific goal, it's come up every single year. Some years they've been told, you have this amount. I don't believe that the school district has had what they requested approved every single year. I think in the end, yes, but that involved a lot of cutting and a lot of giving up of things that were requested. So I'm not suggesting that I don't know what they need in terms of an amount. I just know that they don't have enough, and they haven't had enough for a long time. And I think that the goals are obviously your area, but this discussion in terms of identifying a specific goal for that, looking at the school department, I think is well-deserved. That's the only.
Mr. Mickelson.
Yes. So I don't think the town of Dartmouth has the stomach for a $14 million override. There's no way on earth that that's going to happen. I, for one, I support Mr. Tattlebaum's addition to that 1.4. I don't believe the language is it's not saying that we're against you 1 for 1. This is for you. This is for me. We're all for one. I don't believe it has a deterrent in that type of language. But the schools need help. There's no question about it. 12 years on the board, on and on and on, year after year after year. The schools will always look for money, and it never seems to be enough because, and not on the negative side, it probably was never enough. Do we need additional taxes? Maybe. Maybe we need to raise taxes a bit. I don't think we should be so.
But Stan, we can't.
Why not?
Well, because of
You can have an override.
what?
You can have an override.
Right, but your first thing was you said you didn't think the town had the stomach for the override.
Well, not $14 million.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking
But you
about.
can't raise taxes
No, I'm
without-
talking
we
about
can't
money
do-
like that.
Okay.
Not at this point. It's not going to happen. I like the language. I think it just, there's a little oomph to it, and we're determined to do that. And year after year, we should be able to help the school with that type of language.
So go ahead, Dave.
No, go ahead.
Excuse me?
You were going to say
No,
something?
go ahead.
Oh. A couple of things to say. We've been in the process for 1 year of long-range planning, which we've never done before, addressing the major needs of the town: water, sewer, all kinds of infrastructure. And we're prepared to, with the guidance of Cody, we're prepared to present to the board a plan that takes 5, 10, 15, and 20 years out And that may not require some type of override. If it would be material override, it would not be a operational, because I think operational overrides are very difficult to pass, because much better the overrides on things, on buildings and infrastructure. I think the language still proposed, what Ms. Sam had to say about adequate, it's a good try, but I just think that, once again, this is not the expense of any ed department. If it's out there, if we can do it. And I think it's a great thing that we have an advisory board the first time. And one could say, well, let's not do anything to this language, because let the advisory board do their job for a year and see what happens. That is one approach. However, having the goal in mind to increase the school budget in some way, if possible, would be a great way to establish the role of the advisory board, so they can look and see if that's possible, as opposed to waiting. I think it's an open. It's not specific. We're not asking for 10%. We're not asking for any percent. We're asking for the goal of an increase, period. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
I'll go back then, Mr. Tattlebaum. My concern is when you have the words percentage, is one thing. So what you just said now is a little bit different. That's one thing. But I understand, I think I understood when you said that you think the town would support an override for a product, or I guess a building, versus an operational override.
And that will come as part of the long-range planning. It will come.
There will be
A need.
a need for an override to produce a product.
Correct.
Just want to.
That, thank you.
Right language.
Thank you.
What was that, Cody?
Debt exclusion.
Excuse me, right.
Yeah, there will be, and that, we're going to be very specific. That was our job. And once again, with Cody's always good advice, we'll come out with a plan that's going to be as fair and as long-range as possible. That will address the long-term needs of the town, which are astronomical.
Okay, so we have a pie that is this big. And what you're saying is, you believe the pie that we have, with the taxes we pay, should sustain all departments in our town. And what Mr. McDonald is saying is, he believes an operational override may be needed so that the operational expenses of the town, the pie can be bigger. And what you're saying is,
I think they're both, at this point, they're premature, because we're going to present this board with a plan to fund long-range plan and structure. And once that's done, then we look at our day-to-day operations. What's that going to require? Is that made possible, an increased tax burden? I don't know. But you can't do one without the other. And this town has never done long-range planning. And I think we're going to be, I think you're going to be quite happy with the presentation and the logic and the fairness to it. And then once we see that, we can vote on it and go forward. In the meantime, we need to operate the town in a way that I think is more fair. And I do believe that there's efficiencies out there we can find with a competent advisory group that we can then decide where those funds should go. And if we find out it's the opposite, I'd be the first to say, okay, but I don't believe that's going to happen. But that's what I'm saying. If and when that happens and how we do our job, we can then decide, and the goal being to fund the schools more than we are now. Nothing drastic here. There's nothing overwhelming. It's not about a tax burden of $1,000 more a year, because never came up.
what are you saying, never came up?
That wasn't part of anything I said.
No, I realize that. So do you have David's language written down?
I wrote, this is what I have, Dave, let me know if it accurately captures it. Develop a plan to address the identified needs, with specific emphasis on increasing the percentage of the town's funds allocated to the Dartmouth Public Schools.
I had said particular, but if you like specific better, that's fine. That's okay.
Could you read it one more time?
I like particular more so that it's less specific and it's less binding.
Particular instead of specific.
Particular emphasis on the goal of increasing the percentage of town funds spent on our schools. Anybody has any suggested language change? I'd be happy to hear it.
So 1.4 would read, as Dave's recommending, work through the FY27 budget process to identify operational areas where greater financial investment may be necessary that allows Dartmouth to excel in service delivery and develop a plan to address the identified needs with particular emphasis on the goal of increasing the percentage of town's funds allocated to Dartmouth Public Schools.
Make that a motion.
Okay, a motion,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Tattlebaum.
No, Nichols,
Mickelson, sorry.
it's okay.
Any discussion, other discussion on this side? All right. All in favor of adding that, say aye.
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 All in, those opposed, say nay. Nay. So it's 2 in favor and 3 nay. Now, I will clarify my nay. As Mr. McDonald said, this is not an anti-school, but what it's going to do for me is hold the gentlemen that are sitting at this table who wanted this, that when the budget comes before us and the school department needs a level of funding that we have not funded them before, that I'm going to call upon you to put your sort of money where your mouth is. Do not at that point say, there's nothing we can do. So I do think going into this, it gives the Finance Committee and the Budget Advisory Group the task of knowing what each department, with particular attention, what that's going to look like at the school department. And when it comes to funding it, as Terry clarified, Ms. Ham clarified, that at Finance Committee meetings over time, before the budget gets to us, the Finance Committee has asked the school department to trim, and there have been layoffs. So we need to get that information and then find out through the efficiency study, through the class and comp, where are those efficiencies in other departments? Because what, although not included in the statement, we really do want to look at what is needed in the school department to bring them up and where we can find, without cutting other departments, where we can find those efficiencies of money that we can divert from into that same one Dartmouth pie.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I think, Dave, you illuminated an issue. I appreciate the fact that you brought it forward. I think 1.4 really, for me anyway, has it in there. The fact that we've gone through and added school committee and school department to a lot of these goals is a positive. I think you've elicited the idea that none of us are really satisfied with the current spend. No question about that. So that's all positive. So if that gives the school department an indication of where the select board sits right now, and hopefully the data comes in and we can make moves that are significant. Because I think we're due for an investment in a bunch of areas, but especially the school department. So, thank you.
Mr. Silva, if you'd like to come to the microphone.
Nathan Silva, speaking on behalf of myself. I would personally be satisfied with a plan, right? We hear the dissatisfaction, right? We hear that there's an underfunding of the schools. I think everyone with a rational mind can see that 270th out of 320 in our community is not acceptable and is not palatable for anyone. And I hear you, Mr. McDonald, like, there's needs across the town, not just in the schools. From my own perspective, my own selfish perspective, because I have 2 children that need to work their way through the school department, and as I said at town meeting, if I am forced to pick and choose between the services I want in a municipality, I will pick the schools above all else at all points, because to me, it's the most important thing that this town provides to its citizens. But I would personally be happy with a plan, right? We had this big discussion at town meeting in the springtime, and we've seen very little come of it, right? We've seen very little steps, actionable steps taking place. There's been some conversations about increased revenue, right? How do we increase revenue that's not just simply through increase the residential tax rate, right? Is there a way that we can do the Airbnb tax that was brought up at town meeting? Is there a way that we can do other forms of raising, whether a summer home tax? These are ideas that have been brought forward and have been shared and have gone nowhere.
Just to be clear, that's not true. We have invested, Gary and I were in administration, we look at all of these things. So a lot of it's part of the budget advisory group, and that's where you'll see publicly the progress that we've made. But that's not really a fair statement, because we met with some members of your group to discuss the summer home tax. We looked into the legality of it and determined it wasn't legal for us to implement here in Dartmouth. We've looked at the Airbnb tax. Gary's run some preliminary numbers, which I think he shared with what the revenue estimates would be. I think he gave that to you. It would be insignificant. But the budget advisory group will publicly show. But I just wanted to be clear that to say that there hasn't been progress is an unfair statement. There's been a lot of progress.
Okay, fair enough. I just haven't seen it. But point is, I think if we're talking goals and things that I would like to see the select board focus on, is a goal to at least put a plan in place of how do we bring our schools from the 270th lowest funded school district in the state to something higher than that. And I don't think anyone is expecting that it's going to be a $14 million increase. I don't think that we need that.
Well, the only reason why I said that is generally the discussion is to bring the schools to the state level.
Yep, that would be the state.
And that was just the emphasis to show that if we were to bring our school system to the per pupil spending of the state average, it would be a $14 million override. So that's just to show you the gap, because when I was on the school committee, it was a $3 million gap. So as you can see, over periods of time, that gap is widened.
So I guess all I'm saying is I would like to see a plan in place. What is the plan of how do we, and maybe it's a combination of things, whether it's fixing things on the revenue side, finding efficiencies on programs that we might not necessarily need as a town, or whatever the plan may be to get us from somewhere that is unacceptable to something that is better for our children's long-term future. So that's all I got.
I'll just add, Nate, that I think, having the school department together with members of the select board, members of the finance committee, talking about that issue is the first part in the plan, and the old way of having the school department come up with a number that they think the town can afford, bringing it before the select board for a vote, I think we can all agree that that process is basically done. We need to be more thoughtful about exactly how we come up with these numbers. And there was always, from what I remember years ago, there was always a one against the other. That's not the feel that I get right now. I really don't. After speaking with Jim and the others, hopefully you'll find a difference in the approach. As long as I'm here, you'll see a difference in the approach and how we get to the number that makes the most sense for everybody. With, now that you're on the finance department, you see, or the finance committee, you obviously now see a lot of the other pulls that you get off of these numbers, and how difficult it is to try and prioritize exactly what everybody wants out of their town. But I think the first part of the plan is to actually get to a point where we're not at juggernauts. We're sitting down at a table discussing it publicly, so everybody knows, because it's all well and good when you come up with a number. The problem is going to be, if we don't communicate it properly, if we don't bring people into this town, into this decision, and show them exactly what it means to them, even though they don't have school-age children in the system, what it means to the longevity of the town going forward in the services that we provide, then forget it. It's over. It's never going to work anyway. So if we do it thoughtfully, if we bring the right people to the table, we communicate properly to the whole town, not just special interests, the whole town, then I think we've got a hell of a better chance of actually getting something meaningful done. That's the other part of it. It has to be meaningful. You know, we need to know what it looks like for the school department, you know, going forward for the next 5 years. What students are 10 years behind now that are going to be coming through the system? How do we make sure that we're ahead of it instead of behind the 8 ball all the time on services? I mean, a lot of those are personal thoughts, but I think it's probably the first part of a bigger plan that you're seeing right now.
I hope so.
Madam
Me
Chair,
too. Me too.
Dave?
Quick message. One of the key members of our long-range planning was Jim Kiley, Assistant Superintendent of Schools. And they went out of their way with his group, school committee, to go out 30 years and say, what's the plan, what do we need, and how do we do it? Some of the short term and then going way out to 30, 35 years. Yeah. And that's the kind of cooperation we get, and they're more than willing to work with us. They've shown that, and he's particularly qualified in knowing what we need in schools and how to do it, and what the infrastructures are. And it was a great pleasure to work with him. So it's a different school department without any question. Thank you.
So the other thing that I just wanted to mention, because Nate talked about going after other taxes. The problem is we can go after all those taxes, all the new houses, all the 40Bs that are being built or are in the planning stages of being built. They all will pay taxes, but if our tax is $100, it's 100. We can only accept $100, say. And next year, if we could increase 2.5, then we would accept 100 plus 2.5. It doesn't expand. We don't get more taxes. Whatever your bill is next year when we do the reassessment of that, we have to take into consideration all these new monies that are being brought in as taxes. And in some ways, our taxes go down. So, Gary, can I have you come up and just, because I have a lot of confused faces. It doesn't necessarily bring us more money into our bottom line.
So we have a levy limit, approximately $78 million.
Yeah.
You take that, you add 2.5%, that's what we can tax next year, plus new growth. So new growth is, new homes, building permits, things that, remodels, things like that. But if you, so in one of
And
your
the levy
next
limit is
meetings-
part of,
Yeah, your levy limit is prior year plus 2.5% plus new growth. If you take, for instance, you're going to be have your classification hearing coming up here soon, next month. You could say we are going to use a different factor in tax commercial at a higher rate. Doesn't mean you bring in more money. That just means the rate for residential goes down hypothetically.
Yeah, we tax at the max
There's only so much
already.
money.
So all it is a shift from the pot of money. The pot of money will always be whatever the levy is. So if it's 80 million next year for FY27, that means that if the board decides to tax at a different rate for residential, the commercial picks up the burden. So the only permanent increase to the levy is an override. That's really the only permanent increase. The debt exclusion is only for a certain amount of time, 20 years, 30 years, and a borrowing for a school, water sewer treatment plant. But anything that increases the levy is through an override. The only difference is on some of the fees that we were looking at. Those, because the budget now is so large, I mean, we're looking probably at a $112 million budget for fiscal 27 preliminary numbers. It's very not impactful for a fee that small. We would have, the only thing that would make a huge impact to the budget would be an override, because now we're talking millions of dollars. And you might have heard some legislation that's being proposed to increase motor vehicle tax, to triple that amount from $25 to $75 per thousand. So if you have a $1,000 vehicle and you pay, I mean, you have a $1,000 bill. If you increase that, now you're paying $3,000 a year for motor vehicle excise tax. So these are all backdoor taxes that are being proposed by the state. The real, in my opinion, the real issue is when it comes down for the state to do their budget. Unfortunately, the last piece in the last line of that spreadsheet is local communities. I mean, you can see it through the state aid. We've been level funded for a number of years. I mean, it's a straight line across for the last 15 years. So when the state puts that together, I mean, there's groups out there looking at, having the state looking inward instead of outward with all these backdoor taxes. They need to start giving back more to the communities, more to local aid. And that's beyond 2.5. That's, government local aid for lottery, for Chapter 70, Chapter 90. This is what we're up against, and it's becoming more and more difficult to build budgets.
Does that clarify, when you were talking about looking at these other taxes, why the levy is still the levy? We can't.
It's 2.5% every year plus new growth. So anything new that happens in town gets added to the 2.5%. I'd be curious to hear the legality of the summer home tax, because my understanding is that that's what they do on the Cape.
Through special legislation that they've been doing since the 60s and 70s. So I'm more than happy to have a more off-the-record conversation with you, but essentially, the proposal that were presented had taxes potentially going from, $1,000 and $2,000 to like $50,000 and $60,000. And I can't see many residents being okay with that and not becoming litigious.
I think it's more the concept of it, of the opportunity. But let's talk about it.
All right, thank you. Did we end up voting on the goals? We did not vote on the goals. We only voted on the amendment. So going back for the goals to be written as presented.
Motion, we approve the goals as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. All in favor of those?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, next we have cannabis equity, social equity policy. So I know we voted on this before, but you will tell us why we're looking at it again.
Yeah, this is, you'll notice, you had approved this a couple of months ago. We submitted that to the state. They came back with a couple of revisions. It's primarily grammatical. We had to add a couple of contact information in there. We had to take a picture of the policy posted on our, in our office and submit that. So we're being required to reapprove and resubmit the equity policy. And this basically just list what we will do if we don't have any licenses available right now anyways, but if we were to have another host community agreement become available, the state requires that we essentially have this social equity policy in place, which provides for applicants that would fall under the social equity program, almost like a first dibs. So this just lays out the process.
So the changes have been made?
The changes have been made, and like I said, they're primarily under adding in just specific language that the state had requested that we include. It doesn't change.
You need a motion to approve and submit?
Yes.
All right, motion made.
Motion made by Mr. O'Neill, seconded by?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Tattlebaum. All in favor of submitting this to the Cannabis Control Commission?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, oh, you're nodding, okay. Mr. McDonald?
That's about all I
I
can
didn't
give
hear
you.
you. Did you say yes? You have voted against it in the past, yes. You and I have consistently voted against it, so we passed 3-2. It's, for me, it's.
Oh, you didn't ask for the.
Oh,
you didn't
sorry,
ask for the no
nays?
votes. Yes, nay.
Nay. Okay, 3-2. All right. Next, we have the town administrator's update.
Sure. So at the last meeting, the board had asked for a legal update and litigation update. That is going to be scheduled for the second meeting in December. We have our legal team putting together an update on all of that for our various councils, so just wanted to give everyone an update. We're following
What
through
about
with
the PFAS?
That'll also be
included?
included as part of the litigation update,
Thank you.
yeah. The DPW was awarded a $5,000 grant to replace a few safety hatches at a couple of their pump stations. So this is a good thing for them, something we were going to have to do anyways. So appreciate Chris, our Assistant Town Administrator, and Tim Barber's work on that. A couple of residents we want to acknowledge. Rose Correa had her 100th birthday on November 9th. And Lillian Nelson Pimentel, who the board recognized last year for her 100th birthday, turned 101 on November 7th. So happy birthday to both of them.
Wonderful.
I want to acknowledge the team as a whole here. We had an incident where an employee was injured pretty severely while it was a DPW employee working up at the Greater New Bedford the refuse district. The employee sustained serious injuries. They were transported to Rhode Island Hospital. They are in stable condition. They are still at Rhode Island Hospital. They've undergone a number of surgeries, but we're glad to hear that they're recovering and in stable condition. And our thoughts and prayers are with the employee and their family. But I just want to commend the team for their response from our public safety. It's obviously, that's a tough location up there. It's in Dartmouth, but it's not easy to get to. And public safety was quick to respond, from the fire district to STAT to our police department, the DPW team for coming together. Kudos to our HR team for providing services and support to the team member down at DPW. So a tragic incident, but we're glad to hear the employee is recovering, and just want to acknowledge the team. We had our Veterans Day luncheon on the Friday before Veterans Day, and then the ceremony at the Council on Aging. Both were very well done and very well attended. So thank you to the Friends of the Elderly for the lunch, and then our Veteran Services Officer, Matt Brule, for the coordinating, both in particular the ceremony. On November 5th, the Greater New Bedford Voc Tech hosted Dartmouth Day. And so a number of Dartmouth officials, including members of the schools and school committee, myself, the chair of the select board, and others,
FinCon.
and members of the FinCom attended. It was great to see all the work going on at Greater New Bedford Voc Tech, and their commitment to approximately a little under 300 Dartmouth students. So appreciate Superintendent Mike Watson for having us. Later that evening, we also welcomed the governor to town as we had the ribbon cutting ceremony for the new Fallon Health all-inclusive elderly care facility, which was great, really eye-opening. I naively thought it was just another kind of physician's office, but that's not at all what this is. It's really an all-inclusive elderly care, so that was great. I also want to mention that we had the ribbon cutting of the Mendez Montero House on October 29th, and that will be for Department of Mental Health patients, and so it's great to finally have that open. That's been in process for a long time. And then last but not least, just an update on our compensation classification study. The vendor is making substantial progress. We did meet with some concerns about the timeline, which was supposed to culminate on December 1st, and we agreed to extend that out to the first week in January to give them more time to provide us with a high-quality product. That is all I have for updates.
Thank you. All right. Old business,
I have no new updates for any of
no
those.
new
Yeah.
updates on anything. We have no minutes tonight, so now we'll go into select board updates. Mr. O'Neill?
Let me see, just a couple of quick ones. Just a suggestion that the recent issue with the employee, that process be reviewed by the town administrator, just to make sure that if we need to make changes in response, if there are any issues that arose during that process, that we review that, because you never know. God forbid it happens again. We want to make sure that we do the best we can in those situations. The Citizens Academy was something that I had brought up with Sean McGinnis years ago, and I'm glad to see that that Cody's included the similar type of thing in his goals in the next year or two, and giving us an opportunity to bring department heads together, the public, the business community, I think is, allow us to make some basically communicate changes that we make in the town, priorities that we have in town. I think that'll be a good thing for every one of us. And lastly, the fact that we are now publicizing the CIP meetings, that'll be helpful to me. It's kind of selfish, but I had no idea where some of the priorities were coming from. And after, discussing the layout with a few people, I understand now. But that process came up a couple of times with constituents, so it's good that whole prioritization of where we spend our capital will be brought to have a little more light shed on it. Thank you.
All right, Mr. McDonald?
Yeah, we just had some reports of an infestation in Padenham over the weekend.
Yes, we did.
But just to make sure everybody's aware of, it was a good infestation. It was elves. It wasn't anything bad, and we only look forward to having Padenham lighted up, whatever, however you want to say it.
This Saturday,
Yes.
November 23rd, all
Yeah, they
elf
have-
activity will be done. Everything will be, and it's kind of the kickoff to the season.
They're gonna have a new marketing, Padenham Village, it's lit.
It's lit. So that's happening this Saturday, and then Friday, December 5th, will be the buoy tree lighting,
And then
so.
our tree lighting is December 6th, the Saturday.
Oh, great, 12/6.
December 6th?
December 6th.
That's good.
Is our elf gonna be there? Mr. Mickelson?
What's that?
Is our elf gonna be there?
Yeah, I'll be
Okay.
there. I haven't missed it for, 16 years now?
Mr. Mickelson, do you have anything to add? for the
Happy
select board
Thanksgiving
updates?
to everybody.
Yes.
But on a sad note, just make sure if you have neighbors that have no one to share a Thanksgiving, maybe just knock on their door and see how they're doing. Drop off a little bit of turkey or leftovers.
Thanks
them
for that
over.
reminder. Even though it hasn't been publicized, the Dartmouth Council on Aging is holding a Thanksgiving dinner on Thanksgiving Day.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know,
So let's
if-
talk about it one more time then.
Yes,
So-
we need to
because this is our last meeting before Thanksgiving.
make sure if
They're hosting.
Cody can contact Angela or Amy down over at the, and let's see if we can get it kind of
Plates.
publicized a little bit for those who may not be able to afford a meal.
Or has no one to share it with, that would
Yep.
be great to have that.
Maybe they can get a ride over there.
Excellent. All set?
Yep.
Mr. Tattelbaum?
Okay.
All set, okay. And I was just hoping by this time that I'd have an update on our boys soccer team. It's our only fall sport still in the hunt of state tournament, and tonight they are playing at Xavier, and they're playing against Duxbury. Dartmouth was ranked 3rd, Duxbury 4th, so I'm sure it's a fabulous game, so.
And it's a variant?
At Xavier, I guess
It's a variant.
as a
Yeah, it's a neutral site.
neutral site.
Yeah.
So hopefully all is
It's
well.
also a site where the
happening.
MIAA can make more money.
Oh, well, there you have it. That is it for us tonight on our agenda.
Next meeting, December 3rd.
Next meeting, December
3, I think?
3rd.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.